air on fox26houston.com. The audio will air on 90.1 FM KPFT. It will become one of our podcasts, and then we share it on social media, classes. So not just one version of this. This is happening here on the west side of San Antonio. Is being shared throughout the city, throughout Texas, and that's what we want to showcase, our community's voices for everybody. So this is the literary department, the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, and this is going to be the final session of the Texas Author Series, but it will come back next year, even bigger and better. Because you're here today, you're going to be entered in a raffle. So there's pan dulce, of course, and some soft drinks. So enjoy that. But because you're here, we're going to show you the Q code, and I'll pass that around in a little bit for you to fill out. And you will be entered in our raffle for literary gold. What does that mean? That means that we're going to raffle one book from every author that's been part of the Texas Author Series this year. And that's a lot of authors. So when somebody says there's not a lot of Latino authors, you say, that's not true. They were able to raffle over a dozen books by writers that were here in person. So not just enjoying the book, but we've known the writers. And then we also do special events. As in today, the art on the walls are actually examples of Xavier Garza's work as well. So not only is he a writer, he's a visual artist, and he's also given some workshops for the students across the street at Breckenridge and the parents, because he's also a teacher. So this is not your typical bookstore. This is really showcasing the community and our community cultural capital, which is our stories, our gente. I do want to give some applause to our director, Cristina Bailly, who's behind you right there. Hola, Cristina. And I want to thank her because she's the one that had the vision to put the bookstore here. And she's the one that okayed the pan dulce and the raffle. But she also was very excited to showcase not just authors from all over the country, because we want the whole country to know that Texas has powerful voices, but we also want to showcase writers from here in San Antonio like Xavier Garza. So I just want to let you know what's going on. Have fun, enjoy it, but know that this is a really important issue for our cultura across the country, and I'm so proud that we're involved and it's happening right here. So that leads me to explain why I'm so happy to welcome Xavier Garza. And we're celebrating the publications of his 19th and 20th book. So that deserves some applause right there. Javier, I know some people that haven't read 20 books in their life, let alone written 20. So that's amazing. But I also want to inspire you, porque me da mucho orgullo el éxito de mi amigo Javier, porque yo
lasted like 2 minutes. You know, Dr. Canelos came up. We had a really brief conversation. He gave me his business card, said, call me on Monday, and it's Saturday. So you just have to kind of wait. But, one thing that I always tell people, it took me almost 10 years to get my first book published. But when I tell people this, I tell them anybody can write a book. Todos ustedes aquí presentes, todos podemos escribir un libro. And the reason we all can write a book is because, truthfully, we all have stories. Every single one of us, we have cuentos. We have things that have either happened to you or to someone that you know, or you have that aunt, uncle, mother, grandparent. They keep telling you all these stories, all these cuentos, and all these stories that you hear. They become the foundation for your book. And you might say, well, what should I write about? I tell people, write about what you know. Write about things that have happened to you. Now, I'll do two books tonight, and I'll talk about the other ones too. But one of the first things that I tell people about writing about what you know, growing up in El Valle, and in San Antonio is pretty much the same thing. Growing up in El Valle, we grew up with our cucuy stories. And I tell people, we didn't get the wonderful bedtime story before we went to bed. There was no handsome prince, no beautiful princess, no big castle, no happily ever after. No. We got the story of a woman that drowned her children in the river and then came back as a ghost and would steal other children. Or they would tell you stories about an alien from outer space that drained the blood of goats. Or they would tell you a story about a girl that goes to a dance and ends up dancing with a handsome stranger that turned out to be the devil in disguise. And after they tell you all these stories, all these cuentos, they would tell you, que mija, mijo, go to your room, turn off the lights, and go to sleep. But we love it. That's why when you hear the word cucuy, you automatically get that smile on your face because you know what it is. With you guys in San Antonio, Austin, Houston, El Valle, I don't have to explain. When I say cucuy, most people know what it is. You go to other places, you mention cucuy, and they're like, the what? Cucuy? The boogeyman. The boogeyman. We know the boogeyman. But, and so what I did is I wanted to write one book that would feature all of these cucuys. And I tell people this, I tell them, all my books, I take two things, simple things that we all experience at one time or another in our lives, and I merge them to create a cuento, a story. This story is about a little boy named Damian, who is not afraid of La Llorona or her monster friends, Los Cucuys. But they are determined to frighten Damian, whatever it takes, because according to La Llorona, all children should fear her and her monster friends. This is called La Llorona Can't Scare Me. La Llorona No Me Asusta. And it goes something like this. The scary ghost of La Llorona is hollering up a storm outside little Damian's window. She's going, ay, mis hijos, oh, my children, trying to scare little Damian. But little Damian no tiene miedo. He's not afraid, not even a little bit. He looks at La Llorona and says, you silly Llorona, scream all you want. You can't scare me, not even a little bit. So La Llorona is shocked because all children fear La Llorona. This is unnatural. She can't allow this to happen, to continue to stand. So she calls in for help. Yes, La Llorona has friends, and they are called Los Cucuys. The first two cucuys that appear are two large lechuzas, witch owls, and they're flying around the room going hoot, 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 and they flap their wings and stare at Damian with their scary glowing red eyes. But Damian says, you silly lechuzas flying around my room, you trying to scare me, you can't scare me. Not even a little bit. Well, lechuzas don't know what to do because Damian is not afraid of La Llorona, and he's not afraid of two lechuzas flying around in his room. But then Damian hears the sound of little voices whispering under his bed. Damian says, who could be whispering under my bed? So he looks under, and what does he see? He sees 1, 2, 3 little green duendes, little green trolls, making scary sounds, trying to scare him. He goes, you silly little duendes, are you trying to scare me? One of the duendes looks up at Damian and says, is it working? Damian says, not even a little bit. So Damian is not afraid of La Llorona. He is not afraid of no lechuzas, and he's not even afraid of three little duendes whispering under his bed. But next, Damian hears someone knocking at his door. Knock, knock, knock. Das, das, das. Nita says, I think it might be the donkey lady, because I can hear going hee ha on the other side of the door. He peeks through the hole, and yes, it is the donkey lady. He opens the door and says, you donkey lady, you can't scare me now with those silly donkey. The bed sheet and he pulls it, knocking all three little diablitos down to the ground off his bed. So now Damian is not afraid of La Llorona. He's afraid of no witch owls. Duendes under his bed don't scare him. Three little devils jumping up and down in his bed, they don't scare him. But then he hears a voice coming from outside his bedroom window, and he turns around and he sees a bruja, a witch, and she is casting spells at him. Damian walks up to the window and says, you silly bruja, you can't scare me, not by trying to cast spells on me. Not even a little bit. I'm not afraid of you. Now Damian has not been scared by La Llorona. The chuzas don't scare him. Duendes don't scare him. Donkey lady don't scare him. Chupacabras don't scare him. Little devils jumping on top of his bed don't scare him. And even a bruja, a witch, cannot scare him. But then he hears a sound going, ooh, and he turns around and he's a ghost, a fantasma rattling its chains. And Damian says, you silly fantasma, do you really think I'm going to be scared of you? Not even a little bit. So now Damian is not afraid of La Llorona. He's not afraid of no witch owls. Duendes don't scare him. Donkey lady don't scare him. Chupacabras can't scare him. Devils on top of his bed don't scare him. A bruja don't scare him. A fantasma don't scare him. But then one of the big guns shows up, because his closet door swings open. And from inside his closet, out steps, who's talking to you? Out steps, yeah, the watch can't remind of its own, it's haunted. Out steps El Cucuy. And he is carrying a burlap sack, una bolsa. And he says, I'm El Cucuy and I'm gonna steal you away. Damian looks at the Cucuy. Then he looks at the bag and says, you silly cucuy. Haven't you noticed? I've gotten too big to fit in your burlap sack. You can't steal me, and you don't scare me either. So now Damian is not afraid of La Llorona. He is not afraid of no witch owls. He is not afraid of duendes. He is not afraid of the donkey lady. Chupacabras don't scare him. Duendes, little devils jumping on top of his bed don't scare him. A bruja don't scare him. A fantasma don't scare him. And even El Cucuy can scare him. But next, a calavera appears. The kind you see during Dia de los Muertos, and it's singing and dancing and making scary sounds to scary music as it sings and dances. And Damian says, really? You think you can scare me with music and dancing? I love to dance. I love to sing. And Damian starts to sing and dance too. I'm not scared of you, Calavera, not even a little bit. So now, no duendes, uh, donkey lady don't scare him, neither does the chupacabras, neither do devils jumping up and down on top of his bed, a bruja don't scare him, nothing scares him. But then Damian says, none of you can scare me, not even a little bit. Now the Cucuys are all, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. La Llorona finally says, why aren't you scared of me? Everybody's afraid of La Llorona. Damian says, do you really want to know why you can't scare me? Yes, says La Llorona. We really, truly want to know. Do your friends want to know? Yes, they all yell. We all want to know. Why can't we scare you? Because I have a secret weapon that will make you all run away and hide. Do you want to know what it is? Yes, they yell. We really want to know. And Damian says, he reaches under his pillow and pulls out his luchador nightlight that is wearing a silver mask. He plugs it into the wall, turns it on, and light fills the room, light emanating from his mighty masked silver luchador. All the Cucuys run looking for a place to hide, trying to get away from the light of his mighty luchador. And that's why Damian declares, and that's why none of you can scare me. And he holds up his mighty luchador nightlight for all of them to see. But you're welcome to come back and try any time. And that's why La Llorona can scare little Damian. Tan tan. Now, when I tell people, when you break down the story, all that story is, one of the things that all kids experience growing up. When a kid starts sleeping, in his or her own room, one of the first things they get is a nightlight, like a little light to keep the room lit so it won't be totally man, or it could be Spider-Man or Wonder Woman, it could be a princess, it could be you gave it a jar of honey, it would hold it with its front paws and its hind legs. And there was a kid that loved to go to that zoo. He didn't want to see the gorillas. He didn't want to see the giraffes or the lions. He wanted to see the bear. Not the bears, but the bear. That bear that loved to eat honey. Well, the boy grew up and he became a writer. He wrote a book about a bear that loved to eat honey. The real bear's name was Winnie Peg. And that Winnie Peg was the inspiration for Winnie the Pooh. And of course, it led to the dolls, the books. And by the way, all those Piglet, all those characters, they were stuffed animals. They were the inspiration for the characters. And he had a be happening right now. To do with the and guardian angel represents a certain thing. He represents goodness. He represents fairness. He represents all that is right. He is perfect. But the man that is the guardian angel is pretty imperfect. And his nephew is determined to make him live up to the idea of the character he created. And so it's a whole series. There's 4 books in the series, and working on the 5th. So that's why I tell people, just write about what you know. Write about things that you have experienced, because you all have cuentos, you all have stories. I tell people that if you have a story, you write it down. You don't have to write the whole book there and then. It's a process, but you want to write it down, because a lot of really great stories are lost every day because people say, I'm not, I'll remember, but then you don't. When you write it down, you're saving it. And so that's why I'll write your story down and go back, and then you build up your story, you create your characters, and you put out this cuento, this story that's in you that is begging to be told. Anybody got any preguntas, any questions you all want to ask about anything? About writing? Yes. Oh yeah, well this here, this for our series, being that cucuys forever. And I tell people this, the great running around diapers, even then the story. And I say diapers, not Pampers, because back in those days there was no such thing. And so what happens is I put them like in the futuristic setting. Like there you all know the story, the devil at the dance. Girl goes to the dance against her mother's wishes, dances with a handsome stranger, and while she's dancing, she looks down, and he's a great dancer. If you've heard the story, he walks in, and he is so handsome, he is so good looking, girls turn to look at him. All the guys hold on to their girlfriends just a little tighter. The girlfriends look at their boyfriends and think to themselves, how much do I really like this guy? And of course, he always goes and he asks the prettiest girl at the dance, ladies, I know when you go to a dance, everybody wants to be the pretty girl, but you don't want to be the prettiest girl in the dance. Shoot for number two. Look at all these stories. The prettiest girl in the dance always gets it. It never ends well. Shoot for number two. You're number two. Let number one that gets it. And so, of course, they think she's all girls, yes, but if they're dancing, and he's a great dancer, but if they're dancing, all of a sudden they start to notice that she starts to notice that he's changing. Like his facial features are changing. And then she looks down and she sees the foot of a chicken, that of a goat. Next thing you know, she realizes it's the devil in disguise. And of course, the girl usually dies in the story. Of course, she went to the moral of the story is always listen to your mother. So what I have them there, they're in space, but they're wearing like futuristic space suits. Of course, his have little horns, and they're about to in space. The other ones are lechuzas, witch owls, but I have in almost militaristic looking spacesuits because lechuzas always travel in packs. They're always like they're a group. They attack in groups. They fly around in groups. They're a flock, and I kind of put them like almost like militant. And of course, the one at the end over here, the donkey lady. I had never heard of the donkey lady story. I thought, oh, that is so cool. Like kind of like a cross between La Llorona and the donkey lady. But it was such a cool character that I ended up using her a lot in some of my stories. And there she is in space, wearing the helmet. And of course, the idea being that these are characters that, they're going to be around forever. Your own grandchildren will be hearing stories about La Llorona. And the story is going to continue to be told. It'll change. It'll evolve over time because all stories change. That's how they survive. But it used to be by way of mouth. Then eventually now through books, the internet. You Google La Llorona, you will get so many sites on La Llorona. There's all kinds of and there's variations to the story because I've done variations to the story where she's a villain, she's the hero, she's kind of like in the middle. And I put El Santo in there because, you got to have the hero to fight all these cucuys. And El Santo was one of my favorite characters growing up. El Santo was a masked wrestler from Mexico, kind of based the guardian angel on him. He always wore a mask. Even when he would show up to functions and stuff, he would be wearing a tuxedo, but with his silver mask on. And the idea was that at least what the movies claimed was that the mask is what gave him powers. The mask is what kept him strong and young. And about El Santo, in real life, he was diagnosed with a heart condition when he was much older. And he was put on nitroglycerin pills. And of course, what is the first thing he does? You're having heart problems. What does he do? I'll go on a tour. Farewell tour. And he's wrestling, saying goodbye to everybody. And eventually he was being interviewed on live television by Jacobo Jalodowski, who was the Walter Cronkite of Mexico. And during the interview, they asked El Santo if there was anything he wanted to share with the public during his farewell tour. He said, I want to tell everybody that my name is Rodolfo Guzman Huerta. And that said, he unlaced his mask and for a brief moment raised it up, showed everybody his face, and brought the mask back down. And El Santo would die a few weeks after that. The idea being that because he unmasked himself, he became mortal and passed away. And he left instructions. His funeral was televised. It was a big thing. The silver coffin being carried by a multitude of people around it, all yelling, El Santo, El Santo, El Santo. And so, it was like he planned his own ending. He gave this character that he had created, he gave him this amazing ending to the story. And, that's why a lot of people say that he probably knew how serious his condition was. So he was creating this ending. He was telling a story. The story of this character that he had created. Now over here, this other one, now that's Other character. I have him also in a spacesuit. That last one over there, it's a dual stories. Like when you're born as a luchador. You're gonna fight. You're gonna struggle, and sometimes even when you're being born, you face hardships, complications, but you survive and you grow. You become stronger, and eventually you become the person that you're meant to be, the person that you're gonna be. And and so that's why I put the little baby wearing the luchador mask, and of course I put the Raza Unida flag symbol on it because that is part of the struggle. Go back 50 years, things were different from the way they are now. The opportunities that we have today were not there 50 years ago, 60 years ago, and it's an ongoing struggle. Always pushing forward. Always. That there's more and more people getting published with last names like Lopez, Martinez, Garza. Children, I believe, when people read stories, they should see themselves reflected in these stories. Because that makes us, and it makes them think, you know what? That story is my story. And if he or she can write that story, you know what? I can do it too. I have my own cuento. I have my own story. And it inspires, people to go further, take it as far as they can. And the last ones that are over there towards the back are the Return of Quetzalcoatl. I put it, it's Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. You know the story. He created the people of the fourth world. And his channel, like everything was done by aliens. If you were to listen to those people, those pyramids in Egypt, aliens. And of course they weren't. It was made by people that went and they used their brain. They used, the knowledge that they learned to create this incredible monuments. But it's part of this idea that there has to be some creatures from space or that gave us all this technology and made it happen. But it's not. It's us. It's our stories. It's what we do. We strive forward and we grow and we create. So that's the collection that is here. What the stories are behind them. Any questions, preguntas from anybody? Anybody want to ask a question? Yes. When did you know that that's a really good question. As a kid, I always loved to draw. I tell people I was an artist first before I was a writer. My bachelor's, my master's are all in art, but I always loved to do storytelling. Then a friend of mine, David Rice, told me one time, he's a writer. He said, instead of just telling your stories, you really need to write them down. So I sat down and I said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to write. And keyword being learn how to write. You can write, but you can have all the stories. But you have to sit down and discipline yourself to write your story. And there, and you're going to read it, you're going to go like, no, that's not what I meant. You're going to go through a whole bunch of edits and rewrites and stuff. Eventually, you find a style that you're comfortable with. So when I tell people, why you're a writer and artist, I tell them, well, I'm an artist. I'm not the best artist out there. There are people out there that are much better than I am. But I am a good artist. I'm a writer. Not the best writer. There's other people there that I read their work and I'm like, wow. Denise Chavez is one of my favorite writers. I love to read her stuff. I cry, I laugh, I read her stuff. I read when there was a story she wrote called La Wedding. It's a short story about La Wedding, and it's hilarious. Everything bad that could happen at a wedding happens there. And I love the way she captures people in the story. At the wedding reception, relatives show up. Oh my God, how are you doing? Oh, it's been years. You look wonderful. everybody's all happy, and in the middle they will be part ways and going in opposite direction. Can you believe how fat he's gotten? It's like this whole, and I just love that she can capture that. But, but I go, I'm not the best writer, but I am a good writer. And what happens is I combine both of them to tell a story. And I tell, whether you're writing or whether you're making a drawing or making a painting, you're telling a story. And ultimately, that's what I consider myself to be, a storyteller. And a lot of people are storytellers. They might do it through writing, they might do it through speaking, they might do it through their art, they might do it through poetry, but ultimately, you're telling a story. And one person asked me what is the best part of writing a book? I told them the best part of writing a book is that you're creating something that outlive you. In 10, 20, 30, 40 years, that, the author could be gone. He or she could be gone. You know what? That book's going to be in a shelf somewhere. Some kid's going to get it. They're going to read it. You know what? Maybe your story might inspire them to write their own story. And in that sense, your story continues to be told. I remember one time when I was at a Barnes and Noble, and I was reading. I got a book. I wanted to. My son got a book for me to read to him, and it was Danny and the Dinosaur. And I went like, you know what? My dad read this book to me. Now I'm gonna read it to my kid. And you know what? That book's still gonna be out there when he has his own family. And maybe one day he'll come across it and he'll read it to his own kid. And that, to me, that's the best part of writing a book. It's something that's going to be around for other people to share, and hopefully, be motivated to create your own. Yes. Have I've never directed a play. Yeah, I love theater though. I love theater. That's another reason that I love watching Denise Chavez perform. And it is, if you ever seen Denise Chavez read, it's a performance. She's got her book and she's reading from her book, but she's not really reading. She's performing. Because I remember one time we're in Corpus Christi and she was reading and we're sitting close to the front. And she walked up there. She walked up to the mic, and she was reading. She was reading from the book. I believe it was Face of an Angel. And she goes up there. She hunches her shoulders down, droops them a bit, lowers her glasses down halfway through her face, and starts talking like a grandmother. And she's telling her granddaughter why she should never trust a man. Now, don't trust a man, mija. They're terrible. And you know what? They shed hair. You don't believe me? Look after a man takes a shower, look in the drain. What are you gonna see? Hair. And so it was just hilarious. And I love theater. I love perform. I love Carmen Tafoya. I love to see her perform because she literally becomes another person and brings in the audience. So yeah, if storytelling, there is a theater aspect to storytelling. You want to tell the story and kind of capture the audience. Anybody else? Preguntas before we go to another story? Okay, I'll do this one. I'm gonna do this one because this book, they do have this book available here. If anybody wants to get a copy of it, and it's perfect. It's suiting because we have all these altares, and I tell people, growing up, the idea today everybody hears about Dia de los Muertos, Coco. They all say Coco, the movie Coco. But even though there's aspects in the movie Coco that are very authentic, and there's some aspects that are not so authentic, I love the movie, but alebrijes have nothing to do with Day of the Dead. But they use them. Why? Because they just look so cool. The guardians. No, they're not guardians. They're alebrijes. The guy claims that he saw them in a dream and had to carve them. But they just visually, they look so cool. These hybrids of animals with colors, really, and wings, and They just had to use them. They had to incorporate them into the story. They did include a lot of characters in there, like El Santo, Cantinflas, Pedro Infante, and everybody knows that the villain of the story, he was a cross between Pedro Infante with the looks of Jorge Negrete. And oh, no, not Jorge Negrete, Luis Aguilar, El Gallo Guiro, with that kind of hair. He looked just like, I thought and I said like, yeah, he's like a cross of all of them. Pedro Infante, Jorge Negrete, and Luis Aguilar, all combined into one. So I wanted to write a book about Dia de los Muertos. Yes.
You mentioned that you have several books.
Yeah.
And where are they?
You can get them at Barnes and Noble. You can get them at Amazon. You can right now. I'm working with two publishers. I'm working with Arte Público Press out of Houston. I'm also working with Lee and Low Books. They're out of New York. Lee and Low Books. Actually, I used to be with Cinco Punto Press. And Cinco Punto Press the company got acquired by Lee and Low. And Lee and Low is the largest publisher of multicultural books, and in the country. And so it's a much bigger market. But you can get them at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, here. Yeah. At the Guadalupe bookstore. Yeah. Well, this one they have a lot of copies of, though. They do have several of these. I wanted to write a book about Dia de los Muertos. And I wanted to focus on, yes, calaveras. You got to have calaveras. But I wanted to focus on something else. You know what? One of the best parts of Dia de los Muertos is pan de muerto, Day of the Dead bread. And so I wanted to, kind of said, well, it's Day of the Dead bread. So surely calaveras must love to eat Day of the Dead bread. And what are they willing to do to get some pan de muerto bread? And so that's how I came up with just one itsy bitsy little bite. Solo una mordidita chiquita. And it goes like this. I love pan de muerto, says Joaquin, as him and his mama are getting ready to eat some freshly made, just out of the oven, pan de muerto bread. And Joaquin loves it. It's his favorite. His mama says, I'm glad you like it because your dad, pan de muerto bread, was his favorite. So just when they're about to take that first bite of pan de muerto bread, Joaquin hears someone knocking at the front door. Knock, knock, knock. Little Joaquin gets up and walks over to open the door. His mama yells, Joaquin, don't open the door without first asking who's there. But it's too late. Joaquin opens the door wide open, and standing at the door is a calavera dressed like a charro holding a golden microphone. And he declares, Ahua, as he makes his way into the house without first asking permission. Is that pan de muerto I smell? Asked the calavera. Don't tell me that it isn't, because my nose don't lie. It is pan de muerto, says little Joaquin. My mama, she makes the best pan de muerto in the whole wide world. I believe it, says the calavera. Could I have a bite of that pan de muerto bread? Joaquin turns to look at his mama, but his mama's like this. And you know it's never a good thing when your mama's like this. And she says, Señor, you barge into my house without even asking permission? And you have the nerve to ask me for some pan de muerto bread? The calavera, feeling very embarrassed, takes off his sombrero and says, Señora, I'm so sorry. It's just that pan de muerto bread smells so good. My mama, she raised me better than this. But I just lost all control. But I am willing to work, señora, for just one itsy bitsy little bite of that pan de muerto bread. I will sing a song for you and your muchacho in exchange for just one itsy bitsy little bite of pan de muerto. The mama goes, huh? A whole song for one itsy bitsy little bite of pan de muerto bread? That's a good deal, because we all know how much the charros charge to sing when you go to the restaurants. And she agrees. She says, that's a good deal. And she says, yes. But just when the calavera is getting ready to start to sing, knock, knock, knock. The door is still wide open. Joaquin didn't close it after the calavera came in, and now there are two other calaveras standing at the door, and they are holding accordions, and they say, is that pan de muerto we see on that table? Could we have a little itsy bitsy bite of that pan de muerto too? If we play our accordeones while he sings? Joaquin turns to look at his mama, and the mama's like this. That's one, two, three calaveras, three itsy bitsy little bites in exchange for a song with accordeones. That's a good deal. So the mom says yes, she is willing to take the deal. So the calavera's ready to sing. The accordion players are ready to play their accordeones when suddenly, knock, knock, knock. Little Joaquin still has not learned how to close that door, and now there are three calaveras standing at the door, and they are all holding guitars. And they say, Señora, could we get in on that deal too? We will play our guitarras while they play their accordeones. And he sings in exchange for one itsy bitsy little bite each. The mom goes, that's one, two, three, 4, 5, 6 itsy bitsy little bites in exchange for a song with accordeones and guitars? Yes, says the mama. So they are ready to start. The calavera's ready to sing. The accordion players are ready to go. The guitar players are ready to play their guitars when suddenly, knock, knock, knock. There are now 4 calaveras standing at the door, and they're all holding trumpets, trompetas, and they say, can we have an itsy bitsy little bite each also? If we play our trompetas or trumpets, well, they play their guitarras, they play their accordeones, and he sings. The mom goes, ay Dios. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 calaveras, 10 itsy bitsy little bites. It's starting to be not such a great deal. But I want that song. And it better be good. So she agrees. So they are ready, getting ready to start. When suddenly, knock, knock, knock. There are now 5 calaveras standing at the door, and they're all wearing flamenco dresses and holding maracas in their hands. And they say, we heard they're giving away free pan de muerto in this house. And the first calavera says, no, it's not free. You got to work for it. I'm going to sing. They're going to play their accordeones. They're going to play their guitars. They're going to play their trumpets. What can you do? We can dance in our flamenco dresses and play our maracas for you. The mom goes, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 calaveras. This is no longer a good deal. But now I really want to hear that song. And it better make me dance, and it better make me want to move. So she says yes. So the singing calavera finally clears his throat and yells, Ahua! And he finally begins to sing. Then the calaveras with the accordions join in, playing their accordeones, the guitar players join in, playing their guitarras, the trumpet players start playing their trompetas, and the calaveras in the flamenco dresses all start to dance and play their maracas. And it's a beautiful song, the kind of song that makes you want to dance, it makes you want to move. Little Joaquin and his mama can't help themselves. They have to start dancing too. But as great as the song is, no song will ever last forever. And finally, they reach the end of the canción, and the singing calavera declares, tan tan, That's the end of la canción. Now it's time for some pan de muerto bread. And all the calaveras line up. The first calavera, which was the charro calavera, the singing calavera, true to his word, he takes just one itsy bitsy little bite. He was a calavera of its word. But then the accordion players go next. And they both take one itsy bitsy little bite each. But then the first calavera declares, I saw what you all did. Your itsy bitsy little bite, it was bigger than mine. That's not fair. I need another bite of that pan de muerto bread just to be fair, just to be even. And so it goes with each calavera taking a bigger bite than the last, till chomp, chomp, chomp. When before you know it, the calaveras have eaten all the pan de muerto. They didn't even leave a piece small enough for a little tiny mouse. The pan de muerto bread gone. All the calaveras line up at the door and they declare, Señora, your son was right. You truly do make the best pan de muerto in the whole wide world. And the calaveras take a bow and they leave. But now little Joaquin, well, Joaquin is sad because they left no pan de muerto for him and his mama. And the mama says, Joaquin, why are you so sad? Did you not like the song? I love the song, mama, but look, they left no pan de muerto for us. Ay, mijo, do you really think I would really truly let them have all the pan de muerto? The mom walks over to the oven and she pulls out 2 fresh, still warm loaves of pan de muerto bread. And she puts it on the table along with 2 cups of hot chocolate. Little Joaquin sits down. He is ready to take a bite of that fresh pan de muerto bread. But just as he is about to take that first bite, he puts it down and he jumps out of his chair. He runs over and closes the door and locks it. He declares, no more calaveras tonight. This pan de muerto is just for me and my mama. And he takes that first great big bite and declares, those calaveras were right. My mom truly makes the best pan de muerto in the whole wide world. That's just one itsy bitsy little bite. Dun, dun. And, so like I tell everybody, guys, we all have cuentos. We all have, and, just, share them with the world, leave them behind. Other people will read them, buy them. And you all are storytellers, all of you. You all are cuentistas, you all are writers, because we all have cuentos, every single one of us. Thank you. Let's give another round of applause. And nobody wants you to write a story of somebody else. You can do that, but it's been a while. Usually I kind of try to write my own stories. Once in a while, I am inspired by somebody else's story. I wrote a book called Rooster Joe and the Bully. Now, Rooster Joe was actually based on it's a boy. He's a middle school boy who's him and a bunch of other kids are being bullied by this guy. And when it turns what they learned is that the bully's bigger than they are, but together they are bigger than the bully. And it's basically they are able to overcome the bully. But the story actually comes from a real life story between Joe Lopez, who used to have Gallista Gallery before he retired. Gallista Gallery was one of the premier galleries here in San Antonio for Chicano, Latino, Hispanic art. And Joe Lopez became, a lot of people do roosters now, but Joe Lopez was one of the first artists to do the rooster as a theme. And he did a whole series of paintings of roosters that he called them his Puro Gallo series. And he got sued by Gallo Wines because they said, you can't call it Gallo. We own it. I'm not calling it Gallo. I'm calling it Gallo. That's Spanish for rooster, spelt the same. So it's ours. And it was a 5-year legal battle. He was luckily Joe had people that believed it. He was represented pro bono by former Congressman Filemon Vela Jr. His dad was was one of the big judges in prior to that, and Filemon Vela represented him for 5 years, and together they made Gallo Wines do something he had never done before. They actually backed down, and they ended the whole deal ended with. I mean, I never asked him what the settlement, all that stuff was, but one thing he did say was they said just don't call yourself Gallo, and I thought I'm not calling myself Gallo. I'm calling my paintings Gallo. There's a difference. So that story of it, kind of like a, you know, little guy going up against this big corporation, was the inspiration for Rooster Joe and the Bully, where he showed that one person might not be able to go up against this bigger thing, but when they all banded together, they were able to, overcome it.
What was the payout? About $1 million?
Oh, I never asked. Never asked him. But he did go. He did open guys together.
The answer is 100. So we're gonna do a couple right now. You have a chance since you asked. We'd like you bookstore and now books for sale. What's good is you can get them signed. So you can get the Latino Bookstore again on the side of that hall is the Latino Bookstore. You can come back here, get them because that's a wonderful part of your library store to tell. You got to see the paintings behind you, hear the about it. So we encourage you to do that. And as you do that, so Javier will be here as you get some of the books, get them signed. Also, I think most of you have taken the survey. So we have the Q code to take the survey. And once you do the survey, you may have already filled out a note. And I want to make sure you fill it out. You also get a chance to meet Alma Pina, who's at the front of this. She's the store manager, and she's been helping keep the place going. She's here on the ground every day. What you're going to hand her after you fill out the survey, you'll hand her, if you haven't done it already, your name on the sheet of paper, and she's going to put it in the mug. And a little after Javier has been signing some books, I want to make sure everybody has a chance to get their name in that mug, and then we're going to do the drawing. And the drawing will be, again, this is the last of our 2022 Texas Authors Series. We're going to raffle one copy from each of the authors we've had all year long. So you get a chance to win that. But winner must be present. So the way we're going to entice you to stay is there's more pan dulce, more soft drinks. You get to hang out with Xavier Garza. So I'm going to pass this around. And in the meantime, again, if you haven't put your name yet and met Alma, please do so. If you had a chance to meet Javier, do so now. So this is it for 2022. I hope you enjoyed it. A few questions on here is how you heard about the bookstore, first time you came, which books you bought. Are the hours perfect for you? Would you like an open mic? Would you like more in Spanish, more in English, Spanglish? So those are a few questions we'd love to take your input on because we want to shape next year all around you. So it's a little bittersweet. It's been a fun year, but next year's going to be even bigger. So thank you so much for coming. Last round of applause for Javier, and we will be around and look forward to calling your name as a winner.
That's the way my mom talks, like, within one sentence, like, two Spanish students.
Yeah. It's just a whole lot. Yeah, but Google, just type in Google, there's a whole bunch. You know, that kind of. Well, just,
Is
share.
she be writing it also?
Yeah, I try to like create your own fun, create their own. All of a sudden, it never talk. My dad, my mom, or my grandpa, they tell you this story. They heard this story.
Thank you so much.
That he, you know, may know is just like.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like. Hey, Tony, you have a truck? Oh. Yeah. I'm just gonna look for this one. This one I have up front. This one I have here. The other, actually, the other one. So the way they do it now, usually we're back there. Did you go through it?
I don't think